Want to build your bankroll for football season? We have you covered. Most sports shut down during the Olympics, but Major League Baseball will continue. With our summer baseball promotion, you get every MLB release from your favorite Wager Talk handicapper from the start of the Olympics through the first full college football Saturday on September 4th for only $1.99. MLB returns July 15th, and by signing up now, you can get up to 8 days free, dropping the daily price to just under $4 per day. This is the lowest price we have ever offered on baseball, so lock in your handicapper before the cost goes back to regular price.
Welcome in to First Pitch for Friday, July 16th. I am Drew Martin, joined by Bryan Leonard and Tony Finn of WagerTalk.com. We are back after the All-Star break. Got 4 games breaking down on tonight's slate. Also going to hit a couple other topics adding to the show here, the second half of the season. We got best bets at the end. First up here, Bryan Leonard. Check him out, WagerTalk.com. Bryan, happy Friday. Welcome back in, buddy.
Yeah, it's nice to get back into action here. Been slow the last few days. One of the few situations for guys who handicap sports year-round get a couple days off with the All-Star break. And I know a couple of our comrades, Dave Koken and Marco D'Angelo, are both in San Diego enjoying the sun and getting ready for the race season starting up at Del Mar this weekend. So I've been home getting ready to moving over to Summerlin. So yeah, but been working on baseball, working on football. Football just around the corner. So really excited about what's going on at Wager Talk and for myself.
All right, good to hear, Bryan. And next up here, Tony Finn, Tony Slick Finn, according to those in the chat box. Tony, happy Friday to you. Happy to have you on, buddy.
Good to be here. It's a good day, So let's as somebody in the production room always says, let's get that cash or something like that. Let's get that money. How does he word it? I don't know. Never mind. Let's get to work.
Let's get to work. Let's get that cash, guys. Heading to the East Coast
That's
here.
it.
Nation's capital. First game up. We got the San Diego Padres, Washington Nationals here, Bryan. Chris Paddock and Eric Fetty, the former first-rounder from our UNLV Rebels in 2014. Actually, Bryan, his last 14 innings, he's given up the same amount of earned runs here. This is actually my best bet. I think both starting pitchers are going to struggle here, Bryan. I'm looking towards the over. What are you thinking here, Padres and Nationals in Washington, D.C.?
Yep, I'm with you. Same thing I'm looking at here. I like to follow teams that have players that are rested. And obviously right now, since the Yankees game didn't play yesterday, every team is rested. A lot of batters coming out fresh in the second half of the season, and I think they have an advantage here. Also, Paddock and Fitty are two of the guys that I'm looking to fade at this point. If you look at the advanced stats between the two, Chris Paddock is excellent in his walk percentage of only 5.4. That's the one thing he does well. Everything else is pretty much league average or worse. And Eric Fitty, unfortunately, is about the same. He's not very good in anything. So you got two of the weaker starting pitchers going, and you have teams, obviously we can't really consider Washington or San Diego to be hot since they've had the last few days off. But San Diego's offense the last few weeks has really been coming on. Washington stumbled a little bit lately, but their offense is a lot better now than it was. And we've seen this all around Major League Baseball, not only with the sticky stuff situation, but the weather's getting warmer. And anytime you get warmer weather, the balls travel a little bit farther. The hitters seem to have more success. So I'm with you. I think this game goes over the total. I think we're at 9.5 on this. And that's my better bet out of this game here rather than the side.
Okay, good stuff, Bryan, starting off here. Tony, Chris Paddock, ERA over 5, whip over 1.3. His numbers aren't that good. And we saw him, he's a guy that came into his career really striking out a lot of batters, looking good. This season hasn't been the same here for the Padres starter. What are you thinking tonight, Washington in San Diego, Tony?
Well, if I'm not mistaken, now that you mentioned those, it just kind of hit me upside my head. He's one of those guys that's been affected not only by injuries over the last year, plus some. His spin rate has also decreased a little since the sticky stuff, as you mentioned, has come into being relevant, should I say, actually being enforced by Major League Baseball, because it started to kind of discount their brand or damage the brand per se. Last time he faced Nationals, he got shelled. I think it was 8 earned runs, if I'm not mistaken. Fetty, listen, when Fetty came off his injury, if you remember in mid-June or mid-May, he came back about mid-June. I think it was June 12th. He faced the San Francisco Giants. He went it was one of those doubleheaders, I believe it was, and he went 5 innings, no runs, 4 hits, pitched well. Followed that up with a game against the Mets, 7 innings, I believe, 2 hits, no runs. However, since then, and again, Fetty has been hit and miss, hot and cold. Since then, Philly, San Diego, San Francisco, all 3 of those starts, the longest he went was 5 innings. I think it went 4-1, 4, 5 innings, and let's put it this way. The Nationals won 1 of the 3. The last 2 have been losses, and they haven't been pretty. This is a game that I wouldn't argue with playing the over. I would stay away from this game, period, just because it's 2 pitchers that listen, we're supposed to be able to predict to some degree a probability here, and I have a hard time putting my arms around either one of these guys or either one of these teams right now, as the Padres look like they're going to have a healthy lineup, middle of the order stacked, but I'm going to stay away and agree with the overplay. How's that?
All right, that's good, Tony. And guys, we will revisit this one for the structure of my bet in best bets, talking about the Padres and the Nationals. We got the Boston Red Sox and New York Yankees next game up. And shout out to the chat box here. We got Elliot, Austin, Buck, Banks, Frank, all in the house. Jessica looking towards the maybe towards the Braves here in the chat box. Feel free to throw out whatever you would like, what you're looking to bet in the chat box. And next game up here, Red Sox, Yankees. Talk about a rivalry one here, Tony. We get Montgomery and Perez. We did have a pitching change, I believe, on the Yankees side of things. I think it was first slated as German, going with a -115 price tag. I don't know if the line has moved too much here, Tony, and I'll just throw it over to you. We get Boston Red Sox, New York Yankees, some COVID issues. Might be a good betting opportunity here, Tony. What are you thinking?
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, because I didn't see that there was another pitching change on this. I knew that originally. I thought it was, I guess, was it Rodriguez and Herman originally? And what do we have now? You've mentioned, I didn't notice that there was a change. I apologize in this. I'm showing Rodriguez and Montgomery. Is that correct? And that's the 405. Are they doubleheader?
I believe that's correct. Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
okay.
You got it.
Then let's just say this. Then I was checking the logs, and I saw that they actually had Perez and Herman listed on MLB until I just looked at the live odds. So that said, this is not a game. The Yankees. I noticed that there are a few of our coworkers who like specific one side or the other on this. After what happened yesterday, after the positive test on Judge, who it looks like the Yankees are going to be without now, 7 to 10 days, possibly. There was good news, and that was that the rest of the tracing was negative, at least at this point. It looks like Judge is the only key member of a team that's really pedestrian right now that's going to be missing, and probably one of the most important parts of their lineup, a lineup that struggled. So without him, like even against, whether it be Perez, whether it be Rodriguez, if you can figure Rodriguez out, guys, I would say that you're way ahead of me. This is a guy that in truth, his underlying peripherals are not what his surface numbers. They're so bipolar, and the dichotomy between the two are crazy. They're crazy. You look at some stats, this guy looks like he could be a good third starter for any team in baseball. And then you look at his underlying peripherals, and he's lucky to be a 5th starter. This Red Sox team, this pitching staff, has outpitched expectations, outpitched their skill set, and truthfully, they have a pretty tough schedule. Second time through the second half of the season, and they're a team that are really going to have to excite me to back. I'm going to be looking to fade them in the second half and be a little more proactive, I think, with Tampa Bay, who has an easier schedule. If I'm going to lean here, it's going to be everything screams Yankees, right? I mean, it's basically a pick 'em, and they're missing their best player. So give me the, if you're going to force me to play something, give me the Yanks.
Okay, interesting take there, Tony. And Brian, interested in your take because I was looking towards the Boston Red Sox. I think we get the better lineup here on the Sox. Although, to Tony's point here, Perez, near 1,000 OPS, over 1,000 OPS in Yankee Stadium. So the Yanks have kind of roughed him up a bit here. That's something that's keeping me off. I haven't fired away on this. You interested in getting involved here? Sox and Yanks rivalry game?
Yeah, this is actually going to be my best bet on the show, and I was going to play the Yankees. Judge is going to be out. The catcher, Higashioka, is out, and which I've just pronounced wrong. And Gio Urshela is going to be out. They've all traced, and they're not going to be playing in this game. But I wanted Montgomery at home because his numbers at home have been much better than they have on the road since he's been with the Yankees. But I wanted to fade Martin Perez. And right before the show started, they decided to put Rodriguez out there. Well, Rodriguez is a guy I'm looking to play on. Perez is a guy that I'm looking to fade. So that took me off the Yankees. Rodriguez is a guy that I've been on for the last month or so. His numbers have been much better. If you take a look at his StatCast numbers, you see a lot of red. Red is good and blue is bad. And Rodriguez's numbers have been excellent. His walk rate, 5.5%, strikeout rate, 27%, hard hit rate, 33.7, which is very low. Rodriguez's actual stat numbers in the games were showing much worse than the way he was pitching. And I've watched him pitch over the last month, and he's gotten much better. So while I like the Yankees against Perez, I don't want to go against Rodriguez in this contest. So I went from a play on the Yankees to a no bet at this point based on the late information on Rodriguez taking over for Perez.
Okay, good stuff there, Brian. I think I said, Perez, but it is Erod. You're right there, Brian. Thanks to Andrew in the chat box for that as well. Anthony, welcome in. I mean, just COVID issues overall is something that, kind of makes you pump the brakes a little bit, Brian. We saw it really, at least I remember it the most, with college basketball. Teams coming off of a COVID pause were absolute fades, and it was a good moneymaker throughout the college basketball season, really. I mean, in baseball, we might start seeing it here with the Yankees with their issues. Is this something you would kind of circle and really only look to bet against a team that has these kinds of headlines, Brian?
It depends on who is going to be missing and how many players. I'm more concerned for the college football season coming up than I am Major League Baseball. It's been proven the younger people are the ones right now that are not getting the shots, and that would be college players. The players in Major League Baseball are guys that are making millions of dollars right now. They can't afford to be missing time. And as you're older, the older people tend to want to, they're not as invincible as we all were when we thought we were 20 years old and thought we could live through anything. So I'm more concerned about college football, which really sucks now because we're getting right into the section now where the NFL's coming around, college football's there. So you have to step back and take a look at that, especially for these teams that everybody loves in the SEC. Those are the states right now with the highest percentages of people that are not getting the shot and people who are coming down with COVID. So somewhat concerned there, not as concerned in Major League Baseball. Too much money in Major League Baseball for that. But it is something you need to keep track of each and every day. And the sad part was this is over the All-Star break, and Judge was at the All-Star break, had his arms around Jackie Robinson's elderly wife. But I guess from what they've said, everybody is tested okay, no problem. She, being an elderly person, had already had her shot. So, it's going to be interesting this week to see if anything develops after that.
Guys, we got next game up here heading to Tampa Bay and Atlanta. So we got the Rays and the Braves here. Charlie Morton and Michael Wacha here, Brian. We're seeing the Braves minus 135 favorites. You interested in getting involved here in the ATL with a total of 8.5?
This is going to be a very interesting game. Charlie Morton pitched for Tampa Bay, had a lot of success, thought he was going to be brought back, and they didn't bring him back. And he lives down in that area. He's down in the Florida area. and he wanted to pitch close to home. So luckily, Atlanta said, "Okay, well, we'll take you over here." So I think there's some extra motivation from Charlie Morton in this game going up against a Tampa Bay team that could have easily signed him, but Tampa's got so many guys coming up in the minors that they were able to, let him go and not bear that major expense. So I think Morton has major motivation here. And if you take a look at the StatFacts numbers, Morton's all on the red, pink. He's been good all across the board. We look at Michael Wacha, and it's very similar to the last game we spoke about. His walk percentage is only 6.6, which is good, but everything else is light blue to dark blue. You take a look at his major numbers, the xWOBA, 371, which is bad. X batting average, 391, bad. X slugging, 516, bad. Those are the major stats I look at. So Wacha's a guy I'm looking to fade, and Morton's a guy I like to play on tonight. The problem is Tampa Bay is the better team than Atlanta is. Atlanta's missing their best player for the rest of the season. They just made a trade earlier today to bring in another outfielder. So we'll have to see how that goes. But Tampa's a better team, but the Atlanta line's a little expensive. So I want to play Atlanta, but they priced me out of it. So unfortunately, just a lean on the Braves here.
Okay, Brian, good stuff. Jessica in the chat box agreeing with you. She's on the Braves here, Tony. To Brian's point here, Tony, I think Tampa has the better bullpen, kind of the better overall team here. Wacha's stats, though, talk about home road splits here, Tony. They're pretty drastic, over 200 points in terms of OPS points. Higher on the road for Wacha this season. I'm looking to kind of bet on him more in the Trop than when they're on the road. I would give the starting pitcher edge here towards Morton and the Braves. However, it's not enough. I don't like laying numbers against this Tampa Bay Rays team. They have been a profitable team for quite some time now, Tony. How do you see this one in the ATL?
Well, I see that this is what I see. I see it looks like Atlanta, Brian just mentioned it. Atlanta's not going to lay down, although the way they've played, even when they were healthy, hasn't been good enough. It just hadn't been good enough, and most of the blame's going to go to the bullpen. In truth, they've had their 15-minute moments with the bat. They've also struggled some, been typical of any baseball team during a 90 games of a 162-game season. But this is a team I don't trust at this point in time. As Brian mentioned, they lose their best player, a key player, because he's also not only has a strong bat, he's got a strong glove. He's a good defensive outfielder, and that is not the case with who they've traded for. Jock Peterson's not. Listen, he's not a guy that is going to be saving any runs. He's played mostly left field. We'll see what happens here, but I think Atlanta's in trouble. I really think they're in trouble. I think the Mets and Phillies are the two teams you look at in this division at this point going forward, especially with their schedules. And I can't. As you listen, Wacha has always been a fade of mine. Almost always. I've been a couple of situations where Tampa Bay with him, I thought the price was right, which was a surprise with Tampa, and I thought the situation was right. But I still haven't pulled the trigger on him, and I certainly can't do it tonight. I just can't do it, although I would agree with this. Wacha, Tampa will be my play tonight if I was interested, if I was in this room. I'm not. Again, everything we've mentioned, I really haven't been in the room, but I'd lean here. Again, I'd lean Tampa. I really like them in the second half. Look at their schedule. Look at Boston's schedule. And you're going to find that Tampa, as far as that goes, as far as projecting out, if you can, 3 months, you got to like Tampa.
All right, Tony, good stuff here, guys. If you're liking the content, please smash the like button on YouTube, the thumbs up side there. It does help us out. Wanting to give the guys an opportunity here to talk about some betting strategies in the second half. And Tony, you sent something over. Yeah. I thought it was a great piece here in Slack, and you wanted to throw, or at least talk about maybe a second half future bet here in MLB, and also a little something here on Mad Bum that might give some sports bettors out there an edge in the second half of the MLB season. You want to take just a quick moment to go over that real quick?
Sure, I'll do my best to keep it quick. Let's start with Mad Bum. Let's start with the fact this will be his first starts in almost a month, or maybe even a little more than a month. I don't remember what day it was that they pulled him on a 2-inning start. At that, it was against the Dodgers, I believe, that he just got shelled. And he didn't even pull himself. He didn't tell the coaching staff that he'd had some irritation, some pain in his throwing shoulder. And if you look back at his game logs, you'll find that he had a stretch where he won 4 games and 6 starts. All 6 were really good starts. His velo, his spin rate were more reflective of 217 than they had been in the last few years, which found him struggling. And we've talked about him many times on this show. He was impressive. Then all of a sudden, he mentioned that he hadn't been transparent with this injury, yada, yada, yada. It goes back, really, he said it goes back 2 or 3 weeks. It's almost to the start when he started pitching poorly again. So everybody I've talked to, everything I've read is that he's healthy. He's had a month off. He's back to where he's feeling pretty good as he was when he had that nice runs. And in truth, you really have to be fading these Cubs. These guys, they've already started selling. Peterson, we talked about. And any day, guys, you may see Baez go. You may have, put a big play on the Cubs. All of a sudden, Baez is gone, or maybe he's on the bench because they're talking about him on the phones while the game's going on. And there's a plethora of other players I expect to be leaving, exiting Chicago as they do. They basically go back to that plan that they were sellers before the season even started, and they weren't going to pay Darvish. That was for certain. So in this situation, I think you have to look at Bumgarner, Arizona. You're getting a dog price at home, and you're probably going to get a dog price most of the time with Arizona moving forward. While they're not going to be any playoff contenders, you're going to get the best from them. You really are. You're not going to have the best team on many nights that you're backing Arizona, but you're going to get 100% from them, and they're going to be facing some teams, if you look at their schedule, that may well be sellers. As far as the futures go, I looked at 2 divisions really hard. Listen, I think there's some divisions that are, they're a slam dunk, but I certainly can't play minus money on the White Sox, who are up 8 and have a pretty easy schedule. Listen, they have the easiest schedule in my books, on my charts, in the first half. It doesn't get a whole lot harder in the second half because of the division they're playing in with the Royals, the Tigers. And Cleveland announced they're sellers too, guys. They're sellers. So, Brian might be able to talk to that more, but they're going to get healthy. Chicago is a little healthier, especially in the outfield with some power, with some bat, meat in that middle of that order. And with an 8-game lead, I don't see them losing. But minus money on any team right now, it doesn't seem good value. I'd like Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay's schedule is easier than Boston's schedule, and I think those are the only 2 teams. I know Toronto fans would argue with me on that. Toronto's schedule is not easy as well. And they got a group of young players who I expect some of those guys are going to be, it sounds silly, but I still think young players like that hit a wall when September rolls around, and they're not as efficient or productive. Tampa Bay is a pretty good price. You can get about $1,300 to win the World Series. I think they're a pretty short price. I think they're only about plus 300, and it would vary from book to book, guys. You know that right now, but I think you get plus 300 for them to win the 280. To win the East, and I like them to win the East. I like them. I think they're going to pull away in this division. I think when September rolls around, I think you'll find Tampa Bay in first place by 3 games or more. And at that point in time, again, look at the schedule. You'd like Tampa. At least you should like Tampa as long as they're healthy. And maybe if they've done something, maybe added a bat, at the trade deadline, that would help Tampa. And I expect to see that. So one other thing. If you like long shots, guys, Philly. How about Philly? Look at the numbers on Philly. What they're paying to win that division. What I think they're right around plus 4,000 or more to win the World Series. In fact, I think they're considerably more than that. I don't have those numbers in front of me, but the Mets are the team you have to catch in that division, right? Unless you like the Reds, and I don't. I don't like the Reds. I don't like their bullpen. I don't think they can last going another 60, 70 games. I don't think they keep pace with Philly or with the Mets. And the price between the two and the bats between the two, while the Mets have the pitching, I'll take the Philly bats. And at that price, I think there's value there. So that's my take on that.
Sure. And I think you meant the Nationals instead of the Reds. But you're right. In the National League East, it's kind of the tightest division in terms of, the Mets. I'm looking at it right now, Tony. They're the only team above 500. Philadelphia is sitting at 500. Atlanta, they just had kind of took one on the chin there with the injury. 1 game below. Washington Nationals, 6 games back. And the Miami Marlins, with their starting rotation, they're still single-digit games back as well. So it's like nobody's out of it. I guess you could call the fish kind of out of it, but the other 4 teams, all with a puncher's chance to win the division. So maybe maybe taking a shot there at the NL East champion, worth a look here. Brian, Tony brought up the Cleveland Indians. I know you follow the team closely. And anything else you want to throw out real quick before we move on to the nightcap here?
Yeah, the Indians haven't been playing well, and I'm actually glad as a Cleveland Indians fan because I didn't want them investing in the short term, which they normally don't. But now that they've got on this long losing streak, they are looking to make some trades, which is good. Clear some dead weight that they've been keeping in the organization for so long. They got a lot of young guys on the Rule 5 that they are going to have to trade because they've got too many guys. We've talked about that in the past, so I won't talk much about it. I do want to talk about a couple division leaders that I'm looking to fade. There are 2 teams in Major League Baseball that have played 31 games against teams with an over 500 record. That's the Mets and Milwaukee. The Mets are 16-15, Milwaukee's 14-17. Every other team in the league has played at least 40 games against teams with a winning record. So the Mets are up 3.5 games, Milwaukee's up 4 games, but it's because they have not played a lot of good teams so far this year. So I agree with Tony. I think Philadelphia is a really nice shot coming out of the Central. As bad as St. Louis has played so far, they're only 8 games out. Cincinnati's 4 games out. Anything can happen there. So there's some value in those two divisions. I looked through, there are only 7 teams right now that have winning records against teams with a winning record. One of them is the Mets, which I mentioned, they're 16-15. The other 2 in the National League, San Francisco and San Diego. The Dodgers actually are 20-21 against teams with a winning record. You look at the American League, Boston, Tampa Bay, Houston. The only other team with a winning record against teams with a winning record better than 500 ball, Seattle, 31-29. So we're looking at all these teams that could win it all, and then Seattle's in there, which is really strange because Seattle on the season, I believe, has been outscored by 50 runs. But their bullpen's been tremendous. But I think we could find some value on these teams that have been able to show that they're much better against quality teams. You look at Houston. Houston, to me, is still a nice value to win it all. We've got Houston right now is they've scored 136 more runs than they've given up this year. They're 42-22 against teams over 500, and they're 9 games up over 500 when they play on the road. Houston is the most complete team right now. They're playing the best. I know the Dodgers will spend some money. The Padres will spend some money. The Yankees will spend some money. But right now, it's either Houston or nothing for me. And you're only getting like 5-1 on them, but still, they're the best team in my regard.
Yeah, runs scored. Talking about the Astros here, they're about to round 500, likely tonight. 496 runs on the season. That is very impressive from the Astros. Run differential-wise, the best in the American League, 55-36. That's tied with Boston, actually, for the best record in the American League here, guys. And Tony, I keep going back to your pick on the Arizona Diamondbacks. 26-66 on the season, and yet throwing out there might be a bet on. You know what, Tony? A lot of people would go, I don't know, that's pretty crazy, man. 26-66, maybe looking to bet on them. But I always remember, one of the best strategies at making money in this business, Tony, can be the teams that are absolutely horrible and then they just become bad. That is a good way to make money in sports betting that a lot of people don't look at because you get such a big plus price on it in MLB. So I don't write that off there, Tony. And great segment here, bringing out. I know a lot of people in the chat box liking what you had to say here, Tony. So I'll throw it over to you on any conclusion there. In the nightcap, guys, let's get into it. The LA Dodgers, Colorado Rockies. We get Urias versus Sensatella. We can talk about big plus prices here, Tony. The Rockies, the biggest discrepancy in terms of home road splits here. They're good at home. That's why I threw this one out here on the schedule. Plus 175, can find them as high as plus 180 tonight. Although Urias has been good a mile high. His numbers are not bad in cores. That's the thing that kept me off of the underdog here. And then talking about the Astros and Dodgers and that run differential. Tough to step in front of it. But anything here on the nightcap and anything in conclusion on the Diamondbacks, Tony?
Well, I would agree with you 100%. First off, Urias has been one of those guys, too, that I have been I've backed a couple times this year, and I'm 1-1 with him. So he's a guy that's also one of the Dodgers pitchers that has always been difficult for me to seem to peg, to seem to get a timing, to be in sync with, should I say. He was the first guy to win 11 games, guys, this year. He's 11-3 with about a 4 ERA, a little bit north of 4. But he has really good numbers against the Rockies. Now, it's almost 100 official at bats against the Rockies lineup. 201 is what the Rocks are hitting against him. 235 on base percentage. In 97 at bats, I think he had 27 strikeouts to 7 walks. So not only has he commanded this pedestrian Rockies lineup, he's done, as you mentioned, Drew, he's been good, at least decent, at least acceptable, winnable at Coors. And against a team, really, if you're going to play the Rockies, you're going to play them in Coors, and you're going to play them against left-handed pitching, right? This will be one of those situations where I think the odds makers, the bookmakers, would probably like to have you taking the underdog here, because I like LA to have a decent second half. I like their schedule. I like the schedule much better than San Francisco's and San Diego's, and I think they're the team to beat there.
Okay, and Brian, one thing I noticed in handicap in this game, Urias, the games that he struggled with, giving up the crooked numbers there, it is against teams in the division. Seeing him the second time, the Giants, the Padres, and the Rockies actually one time this year got to him. That's something pointing here towards the underdog at home here, Brian. What are you thinking tonight in Coors?
I'm looking at it a little bit differently. From the aspect of Urias, as was pointed out, he's pitched twice in Coors Field. Once last year, he had a 57-game score. Once this year, a 72-game score. And then he followed that up by pitching at home. And only got a 44 against Colorado. But he's got a 54 lifetime against Colorado, which is 4% better than average. And Sensatella is a 38 his last 5 times against the Dodgers with a 7.83 ERA. So a huge pitching advantage here for the Dodgers. And if you take a look at what Urias has done, the last 7 starts of 54 game scores, coming off of 68 at Miami. He's a guy I'm looking to back here. And when I take a look at how these teams have done, I much prefer the Dodgers. The Dodgers are 28-8 over the last 3 years against Colorado. I know Colorado's a team you want to play on at home and against them on the road. They are 31-17 at home, which is really hard to believe when you take a look at their 9-34 record on the road. But it's one of those situations that the Dodgers are the much better team offensively in this game. I make it based on the handedness of the pitchers when I average the full season in the last month. I've got the Dodgers at a 111, which is 11% better than league average, and I've got Colorado at 86, which is 14% worse. So that's a 25% hitting advantage for the Dodgers. The Dodgers have dominated Colorado over the years, and they got a huge pitching advantage from the starter here. So I'm not going to bet the Dodgers. I'm not going to lay 190 on a road favorite, but there may be a little bit of an advantage on the Dodgers in this first game, especially when both teams are rested. First game back, I think the Dodgers are going to have a lot of success here tonight.
All right, good stuff on the 4 games, guys. We got best bets here to finish up the show. I'll start us off here with the first game we actually talked about. The Nationals hosting the Padres. We get Chris Paddock on the hill for the Padres, and he has not been good, especially against the Nationals, guys. His numbers against the Nats gave up 9 runs, 2 home runs, and only 24 at-bats. In the one start he faced them, well over a 1,000 OPS. His year-to-date numbers, over 1.3 whip, over a 5 ERA. Paddock has not been good. And Fetty, talking about the former first-rounder out of UNLV, actually in his last 14 innings, giving up 14 earned runs, 22 hits, 7 walks. So of recent, he has not been good. Now, the one thing about this total, over 9 here, the bullpens are good for both of these two teams. The Nationals has gotten a lot better. The Padres have had a solid bullpen all year long. Both of them top 10 bullpen rankings here. So I shift to the first 5 innings. I'll go first 5 over 5, minus 120 price tag on that. But I think the lineups get to each of the starting pitchers, and it's hanging a little too low. So first 5 innings, over 5 runs, minus 120 for me, and the Nationals and Padres. Tony, coming to you next. Great show, buddy. Good insights here. The chat box liking it as well. Thank in you. Terms of your future bets there. The Diamondbacks look. But where are you going tonight for your best bet, Tony?
I'm going to go to Buffalo, New York. And I know that sounds strange, but we're going to go to the Toronto Blue Jays, who, unless something's changed, are we still playing in Buffalo? I think we are. I don't know if they'll play in Toronto. I don't know if they'll get loose enough, or at least the Canadian government will let them back in. I don't know what you guys have heard, but Robbie Ray. Robbie Ray is against a guy who I don't talk highly about very often. That's Jordan Lyles, Texas, Tampa, Texas, and Toronto. First, the weather, about 70, 72 degrees at first pitch, 4 to 5 mile an hour wind blowing in from center field. Those are conditions. Those are April conditions almost, and maybe May conditions, but those are typically conducive to the ball not traveling very well, especially this time of year when you would expect to have 90 degrees, or at least in the 80s up in upper state New York. So Robbie Ray has 2 starts before the All-Star break, both against Tampa Bay. One was a loss, one was a win. Even in his loss, he didn't pitch that poorly. 7 innings, 5 hits, 2 earned runs. He struck out 6, walked 2, and he gave up a home run. The home run was the blow that cost him the most there. But his numbers against Texas, he hasn't seen Texas much, but in 28 official at-bats, 2 hits, 0.37 batting average, and for the most part, those guys, it was Culberson and Dahl. So I think Robbie Ray's good the first 2 or 3 times through the order tonight, and Texas isn't great against left-handed pitching anyway. They're not getting good against any pitching for that matter. Jordan Lyles, if you look at his game logs, first off, let me just start with what he's done. Not seen too many of these Toronto Blue Jays. In fact, only 3 of them, Simeon, Springer, and Randall Grichuk. That's all. 22 official at-bats, 8 hits. The average is 504. However, no home runs, no triples. Of those 8 hits, 2 were doubles, 6 were singles, and he walked 4 and only struck out 3. That's what you get with Lyles mostly. But the weather's right. The fact is that they're going to have 7 guys in the lineup tonight for Toronto that have never seen Lyles. Advantage Lyles at least the first or second time through the order. Robbie Ray's been great. His numbers against this Texas Rangers group, really, really good, 0.37 average. And 9.5's your number, guys, in a stadium that I played 1 total in so far, and it did come in under and came under easily, and the conditions were very similar to what they are tonight. I play under 9.5 between Texas and Toronto.
He's Tony Finn. And guys, talk about, winning producers at WagerTalk.com on the show. Tony Finn, #1 profit leader at WagerTalk. Lifetime here. And we got Bryan Leonard as well, talking about the crew on today's show. Over the last 4 seasons, 2016 to 2020, the #1 profit leader at WagerTalk.com. In these, so Bryan really knowing they're both out. WagerTalk.com. Bro, where are you going tonight, buddy?
I'm going to take a look at a different game. Obviously, I said I had the Yankees originally, but I'm going to take a look to the National League. I've got 2 plays up for clients today. The Yankees game was canceled, so I've got 2 plays up, and both 4% plays. They're up on the site right now. I'm going to take a look at the team playing at home as a home underdog who had 2 players starting for the National League All-Star team, and that's the Pittsburgh Pirates. Chad Cole's a guy that he hasn't been very good on the road, but he's been great at home. You take a look at his stats the last few years at home, much better at home. I think it's something that a lot of people don't know about. We can take advantage of that in the betting marketplace. Take a look at the advanced stats. Exit velocity between Marcus Stroman, Chad Cole, Cole's better. Hard hit percent, Cole's better. Ex-WOBA, Cole's better. Ex-batting average, Cole's better. Ex-slugging percentage, Cole's better. The only thing Stroman's better at is strikeouts and walks. Cole's a guy who allows 12.6 walk percentage, while Stroman's very good at 6. Cole's not a big strikeout guy, 18.8, but Stroman's about 20.8. Neither big strikeout guys. But I've got a situation here. These are interesting that these two teams split a 4-game series in New York right before the All-Star break, and they pick up right where they left off, except for they're going to Pittsburgh for this one. I like the situation here. I think Stroman's, when you take a look at his advanced stats compared to his actual stats, he's an overrated commodity. And Chad Cole's a guy who's better than what his numbers have shown. Take a look at the Mets road record. It's almost exactly like the Pittsburgh Pirates home record. Yes, the Mets are better, but I talked about earlier, they haven't played any good teams. Only 31 games against good teams this year. So I think the Mets come into this game a little bit overvalued, being the first place team. Now I'm going to take my shot here on the underdog and Chad Cole with Pittsburgh. I'll take the plus money, getting about 150, I believe, 145, something in that area with Pittsburgh. So I'll take the Pirates as my best bet on the show today.
Pirates and the barking dog tonight, guys. Big plus price there on the Pirates. We'll recap the best bets here. Over 300 people watching right now. We really appreciate it, guys, but only 40 likes. Smash that like button. Help us out, guys. We do appreciate you joining us live. And if you're watching on replay, feel free to drop a line below. Maybe a line on if you think the Diamondbacks are worth a shot like Tony talked about, and maybe what future you're looking at in the second half. Just drop the line below on YouTube there. In recap of the best bets, Padres Nationals over 5 for me. We get Tony Finn, Rangers, Blue Jays under 9.5 there in the colder than normal weather in Buffalo. And Bryan Leonard big on here with the Pirates, barking loudly at plus 150. Risk 100 to win 150. So thanks, guys, for tuning in. For Bryan Leonard, Tony Finn, I am Drew Martin. Hopefully you enjoy your weekend. We will be back on Monday. We got the first pitch show slated Monday through Friday next week, 1:45 Eastern time. Come back and join us. Guys, best of luck with your bets. Until then, have a fun, safe weekend. Thanks for tuning in.
What's better than $2 Tuesday at Sports Memo? How about Freebie Friday? We can't go any lower than free, and each and every Friday we'll hand select a best bet from one of the hottest handicappers on the site and give it out for free. All you have to do is each and every Friday, head over to sportsmemo.com. The Freebie Friday will be listed on the homepage, and you'll be just a click away from a free bet.